Hey, it is your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. We're zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth on a number of viewer questions and inquiries that we have received here on the channel, and that is to dive a little bit more in depth into the cognitive patterns, the behavioral dynamics of a female psychopath. And before we get started today, I want to give a huge shout out to those of you who have recently made a donation to the channel, particularly some wonderful viewers we have in the Louisiana area. Very generous, kind-hearted individuals who have been following the channel and are making a donation to the channel here today. And I just want to give a huge shout out and thank you so much. My gratitude is with you, and I'm so glad to provide a resource and tools of knowledge for understanding, coping, and really growing beyond in some very confusing relationship dynamics that may have occurred. And so I want to really dive in and really go into depth here into understanding some more of the behavioral specifics, the behavioral patterns, the dynamics of the female psychopath, the boundary violation, the high-risk behavior, the intolerance to boredom, the ability to utilize their body, their language in ways that are very emotionally manipulative, ways that really catch people off guard, especially when it's worn on the sleeve of a female who should be nurturing, caring, don't hurt the woman, don't hurt the children, women who engage in sort of a sexual or psychological violence or warfare by the neural wiring. These individuals, these females, have a high incidence of reward dopamine to boundary violation, hyperarousal, hypersexualization, and especially on in a sort of high. You might see that they're highly motivated, a strong, independent woman, that seem to have no fear. You might call it the fearless female. We're not talking about strong, independent, humane, and integrity females. We're talking about women who really lead a life devoid of attachment to others. Their relationship is more on a cognitively wheel-spinning sort of connection with others. So when I say cognitive, I mean intellectual, from what they have learned, assessed, and watched versus what they really experience on a guttural or heart level. So, having a good heart, having a heart for others, loving children, loving a smile on a baby, loving a puppy, being able to engage and attach to others in those sort of warm, friendly, kind, considerate ways. These individuals do not have that connection. They might be able to display that. They might be able to portend that or look as if, act as if, or behave as if, but these are not genuine. We hear about, someone who is fake, who is false, who is putting out a show, who is putting their best foot forward, who is pretending. Now, that's the main issue that we see in this personality disorder, is that there's a presentation of a type of person. There is the appearance thereof. They can appear to be a wife, a mother. They can appear to be a doctor, lawyer, Indian chief, whatever it is, but inside they are not these things. They are an intraspecies predator who takes delight and pleasure from seeing the hurt and harm to others. So these are the people who, might have been, very sort of promiscuous early in life, crossing bounds, violating boys, violating girls, violating other adults through their sort of promiscuousness or their enigmatic talk where they might be very intellectual. Now these people, it doesn't mean that they have deficits psychologically. They can indeed have a high IQ, which means they can be fully functioning in society. They can be business owners. They can be highly accomplishing in their fields, but oftentimes they get there through certain unethical means, which means they're going to violate societal norms, which means things like hijacking computers or hacking documents or etc. to get whatever it is that they need. So these are like the personal and professional lawbreakers, where they break the law and they feel a sense of entitlement. It is there, I should have it, but they are not going to, honor certain things like passwords, certain things like stealing locks. These are the people who will look for the lock to the drawer, who will look for the person to go to the bathroom and look at the documents on the desk. These are the people who will try to throw you off base, who will try to tell those people who are good that they are wrong. They will do the office politics. They will engage in family politics. They will engage in community politics to try to get whatever it is that they want. So if it's, it is these individuals who crave the power. They crave being in control, and they will do whatever they want to get whatever it is that they want. And it might just mean attention. It might mean sex. It might mean money. It might mean property. It might mean whatever it is, just, to delay their boredom or belay their boredom. They're going to engage in these high-risk behaviors. So, and oftentimes we see a violating of boundaries or an enmeshment where basically there is not an honoring of this and a care for people with this intact. So you might call it respect. So what are some examples? Let's just say, for example, in child rearing, the female psychopath may look at their child as an instrument for their pleasure. So, putting on, diapers too tight, putting on an excess of diaper cream so it overstimulates the child, overindulging them in certain acts where they are hyper stimulated but not giving sort of for their own good. So in other words, they might be there and caring when when they are doing wrong. So they might wire them to continue to do maladaptive behaviors, making them uncomfortable, making them react to them. There might be violation of boundaries or sexual abuse, or even a lot of intimations, which means the mother is using their body in a seductive way or provocative way to that child, which is not meant to relate to them as a mentor, a teacher, a leader. There is a provocativeness to this, and very oftentimes inappropriate. They might use inappropriate language, or neglect of their heart nurturing needs. In other words, to give them a hug, to give them a kiss, to be caring, kind, validating to them, supportive and praising, in acknowledgement of their. So there's a lack or a deficit of that sort of raising of a child, where they're acknowledging, good job, Jimmy, great job for your grades, rewarding the right things. We see they just don't get it. They're not there to sort of get that building up of their child. They're more involved in self-absorbed activities, whatever that might be. But we see this gulf, this absence, this rift, really emotionally meaning that parent is not there in a heart-centered or emotionally centered way. It's a very sort of superficial way. And superficial meaning for the appearance of and not for the good of. And so this can be very, very confusing to a child, very confusing to a spouse. But you can rest assured that there is no emotional connection the way, a mother-child bond is meant to be. So we see boundary violation in these ways, where they might then do the splitting, of one child against another, coddling another child while ignoring another, and then watching with pleasure the upset, the thumb sucking of that child who is not getting the attention, while this other one is being breastfed or being coddled or being rocked, and then seeing the dismay on the other child's face. So they might take pleasure from that. Or, take pleasure from giving attention to the kids and not giving attention to her husband. But yet being very active in other areas of life and then neglecting emotionally the needs of that spouse. So we see this real divisiveness. Divisive meaning splitting, or, it's on one side or the other. And that's very hazardous, especially in something like a family, which is supposed to basically operate as a unit. It's supposed to operate, there should be some congruency, psychological congruency, rather than the pitting of one against the other, or then what we call the fabulation, the lies, and creating of pathological envy. Pathological meaning not healthy, not normal, without integrity basis. We're talking about unethical treatment, and number one rule is not to pick favorites. So you see this proliferation or deviance in child rearing as well, and also in other situations that might also be like, for example, just inappropriate seductiveness. You're at the hospital and this person is lying provocatively on a hospital bed. The things that they do, the way that they use their body placement. They see that others are, either disarmed, and then if you are disarmed, meaning your guard is down, then they're able to, get in. That's how they're able to get in and install that sort of psychologically hijacking software into you, where you then kind of feel like, inextricably or inexplicably attracted or connected to them. So you feel almost like a magnetic draw to this person, where you can't pull yourself away. You can't separate. You feel like you have to be right there. You have to be adhering to them, or acknowledging of them, or just wanting to, be around them. You have, you don't know why, but you feel drawn. And then, what's really disheartening is that oftentimes people then are sacrificing their own life purpose, their own life direction, sort of, what I need to do becomes sacrificed or becomes secondary, or oftentimes people aren't even able to resonate or acknowledge what that is, because it's so they're under that psychological cocktail of being hijacked really by the needs of this person versus your needs. So it can become and then what we say, then the mask drops, and then either they become disinterested with raising their kids, or disinterested all of a sudden with their family, as if they have no they have no connection, as if they're almost a stranger. It's just like that you don't know who they are. It is because this individual can put on a act, and when I say an act, I truly mean an act of who they are. And they can pick up language with great facility, which means with great ease. They can all of a sudden become as if they are this person, where they can act as if, they can all of a sudden become this Greenpeace person, or become this pro-conservative, or become this pro-liberal, where all of a sudden they can become this person, and they can almost metamorphosize their body, their language, their tonality, their attitude, where they just have like a metamorphosis of persona, where they can go from the adulteress to the nun, to the little child, to the older adult. I mean, they can really create and confabulate a persona according to whatever it is they need in that moment. And so we see this sort of, rotating of social groups with which they will be with. And almost, you've heard of the couch jump. Well, I mean, they do this oftentimes throughout their entire life, and they really do not have a connection to those people with who they are currently. It is just, you are just basically a supply. A psychopath will tell you that they're actually asexual when you're thinking that they are hypersexual. So in other words, they're using sex as a weapon, sex as a manipulation. This is all sort of a way for them to get people hooked, get them transfixed, get them addicted, if you will, get them into that psychopathic bond with them where you are inextricably connected or close. And you can see this, and the psychopath will say, we can always see the other psychopath and how they work their victims. So they almost have another sort of eye, a third eye, a fourth eye, whatever you want to call it, where they're able to see who is psychopathic, just like the way a bilingual person might say, hey, you're from my culture, you can speak my language. A psychopath can also connect with other people who are psychopathic and know that, these people hijack others the way that they do, and they know exactly who their targets are. It is your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.